The first thing Mara Cade noticed was the silence. Not the peaceful kind. The wrong kind, the kind that followed violence so complete it erased sound itself. No engines. No crew chatter. No alarms. Just the faint hum of an alien containment field pressing against her skin like cold breath. She tried to move. Pain answered first. It came sharp and deep, radiating from her side, blooming through her chest, stealing the air from her lungs. She tasted iron. Her vision swam, lights bending into unfamiliar colors overhead. None of them were human. "Don't," a voice said. Flat. Mechanical. Not unkind, but not concerned either. Mara forced her eyes to focus. A tall figure stood over her, limbs jointed wrong, skin the color of burnished stone. One eye, too large, studied her through a transparent lens. The other remained uncovered, dark and unreadable. "Where are my people?" she asked. The figure paused. That hesitation told her everything. "They were processed," it replied. Mara swallowed. "Processed how?" Another pause. Longer this time. "Removed." She closed her eyes. The raid had come fast. A routine cargo run through neutral space. No escorts, humans didn't get escorts out here. They weren't worth the fuel. The Keltar patrol ships had decloaked inside minimum distance, weapons already hot. Boarding teams cut through the hull like it was paper. The crew barely had time to raise their hands. She remembered Captain Ionescu stepping forward anyway. "We're civilians," he'd said. Calm. Measured. "There's no profit in this." The alien commander had tilted its head, curious. "Incorrect." Mara remembered the sound that followed. She didn't remember hitting the deck. She remembered waking here. "How long?" she asked. "You were unconscious for 6 local cycles," the figure said. "Your survival probability was negligible." "And yet," Mara rasped, "I'm still here." "Yes." It said that like it was a problem. The figure turned, consulting a floating interface. Data streamed past and symbols she didn't recognize. Her wrist was restrained by a translucent band, humming softly. She could feel it monitoring her heart rate, neural activity, oxygen saturation. They weren't keeping her alive out of kindness. They were collecting information. "Why didn't you kill me?" she asked. "That was the order." Mara opened her eyes again. "But you didn't." The figure looked at her fully now. "I am Med Adjunct Selak," it said. "Your injuries were interesting." She almost laughed. "Figures. You sustained organ rupture and internal hemorrhaging," Selak continued. "Your species lacks redundant systems. You should have expired." "But I didn't," Mara said again, softer this time. "So what now?" Selak hesitated. "That decision is no longer mine." The door behind Selak irised open. 2 armored figures entered, weapons integrated into their forearms. Their presence changed the air. Selak straightened, posture rigid. "The subject remains alive," one of them said. "Explain." "She is no longer combat effective," Selak replied. "Termination is inefficient." "Efficiency is irrelevant," the guard snapped. "Protocol requires elimination of witnesses." Mara's grip tightened weakly against the restraint. She met Selak's eye. "You don't have to do this," she said. The guards raised their weapons. Selak did something unexpected. It stepped between them. "Delay," Selak said. Its voice was calm, but its pulse rate spiked. Mara could see it reflected faintly on the interface. "Further data extraction may benefit." The guard struck Selak aside with brutal efficiency. Selak hit the wall hard, collapsing. The weapon turned back to Mara. She didn't beg. She didn't scream. She reached with her free hand, fingers brushing the small recorder clipped to her collar. "Standard issue. Short range. Emergency only." She activated it. The guard fired. The world exploded into white pain, then vanished. When Mara woke again, she couldn't feel her legs. She could feel Selak. The medic was hunched over her, hands moving fast, precise, glowing instruments sealing tissue, restarting organs that had already failed once. Alarms pulsed softly. Outside the room, voices shouted, angry, alarmed. "You violated direct command," one of them yelled through the barrier. Selak didn't answer. Med Adjunct Selak, stand down. Selak sealed the final wound and straightened. It looked at Mara. "You should not be alive," Selak said. Mara's lips trembled. "Guess we're both in trouble." Selak turned away and accessed the recorder. It hesitated only a fraction of a second before isolating the file and routing it through a narrowband channel, tight, weak, easily missed. Destination, unknown. Mara's vision blurred. She forced one last breath and whispered into the open mic, voice barely more than air. "Earth." The guards breached the room moments later. Selak was restrained. The recorder was destroyed. Orders were shouted. Corrections issued. But the signal was already gone. 3 light weeks away, in a quiet room lined with stars and silence, Commander Elias Ward listened to a corrupted transmission. Static. Blood. One word. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't ask questions. He closed his eyes, counted once, and said, "Log it." An aide hesitated. "Sir, it's just one survivor." Ward opened his eyes. "One," he agreed. "That's enough." The fleet alarms began to sound. The fleet did not assemble in secret. It assembled in plain sight. Freighters rerouted from civilian lanes. Survey vessels recalled from deep space mapping. Old rescue cruisers recommissioned without ceremony. Nothing carried weapons heavy enough to trigger coalition concern. Nothing moved fast enough to seem urgent. From the outside, it looked like logistics. Inside command space, it felt like gravity tightening. Commander Elias Ward stood at the center of the operations ring, hands clasped behind his back, eyes on the projection hovering above the deck. The Keltar sector rotated slowly, its trade corridors glowing like veins. Slave hubs marked themselves without shame. They never bothered to hide. No one had ever challenged them. "Status," Ward said. "Fleet alignment complete," Lieutenant Soren replied. 18 hulls operational. All civilian flagged. Ward nodded once. "Casualty estimates?" Soren hesitated. "If resistance escalates." "It won't," Ward said. "They don't believe we'll act." Across the ring, Captain Reyes folded her arms. "And when they realize we did?" Ward turned to her. "Then they'll believe we'll stop." Silence followed. Not doubt. Anticipation. Earth had argued once, centuries ago, about what made humanity dangerous. Numbers. Adaptability. Persistence. The answer had never been loud. It was memory. The partial transmission replayed on a secondary screen. Static. A labored breath. A single word. Earth. No last name. No coordinates. Just trust. Ward had watched it 27 times. He watched it again. "She didn't ask for rescue," Reyes said quietly. "She just called home." "That's what makes it binding," Ward replied. They had found her. Not her body, her trail. Med logs leaked through coalition medical networks. Anomalies flagged and dismissed. A human physiology profile tagged inefficient yet referenced more often than necessary. Someone had been curious. Someone had intervened. Ward traced the pattern. "She's alive." Soren exhaled slowly. "Then why haven't they executed her?" "They tried," Ward said. "And failed." The fleet slipped into coalition space under inspection codes that had never been denied before. Automated hails greeted them, perfunctory and bored. Cargo manifests were scanned and archived. No one noticed the encrypted layers beneath. On the third day, the Coalition responded. A single message. Audio only. "This is High Executive Vraxel of the Keltar Coalition," the voice announced, sharp and formal. "State your purpose in restricted lanes." Ward gestured, and the channel opened. "Commander Elias Ward, Terran Union," he said. "Humanitarian transit." A pause. A faint scoff. "There are no recognized humanitarian crises in this sector." Ward didn't argue. "We're here for our people." Another pause. Longer this time. "Human crews operating in this region have been lawfully processed," Vraxel said. "Your presence is unnecessary." "Then you won't object to their return," Ward replied. Silence stretched thin. "You are mistaken," Vraxel said finally. "There are no humans to return." Ward leaned forward slightly. "That's inaccurate." The channel crackled. "Your intelligence is flawed." "Our intelligence is patient," Ward said. "We have names. Routes. Purchase orders. Medical logs." Reyes watched Vraxel's pulse spike on the biometric overlay. He didn't expect that. Ward continued. "You executed unarmed civilians. You violated neutral trade accords. You concealed survivors." "That accusation is baseless," Vraxel snapped. Ward's tone never changed. "We are not here to accuse." "Then why are you here?" Ward let the silence answer first. "To collect." The Coalition fleet began to mobilize. Not aggressively, cautiously. Patrol craft repositioned. Defense arrays powered up. They still believed this was a bluff. Soren glanced at Ward. "They're forming a perimeter." "Good," Ward said. "They won't scatter." The fleet crossed the perimeter without resistance. Then Ward sent the ultimatum. It went out on every open frequency. Translated, compressed, impossible to miss. Return every human held within Coalition jurisdiction. Living. Unarmed. You have 6 standard hours. No threats. No countdown theatrics. Vraxel responded in under a minute. "You presume authority you do not possess," he said. "Withdraw immediately, or face consequences." Ward looked at the sector map. Every slaver node glowed now. He nodded to Reyes. "Execute Phase 1. Across the fleet, systems awakened. Not weapons. Doors. Chains. Collars. Human-built encryption keys slipped into Coalition infrastructure like ghosts. Slave restraints flickered. Power levels dipped. Control hierarchies stuttered. In holding facilities across the sector, human captives felt pressure release around their throats and wrists. Not fully disengaged. Just enough. A message followed, routed directly into internal Coalition command channels. "You have our attention." Vraxel shouted orders. Fleets surged forward. Ward watched calmly. "They still think this is about force," Reyes said. Ward shook his head. "It's about choice." Soren frowned. "Sir, what if they refuse?" Ward met his eyes. "Then we remember for them." Another transmission arrived. This one scrambled. Desperate. A medic's ID signature flashed briefly before vanishing. Ward recognized it. Selak. Ward straightened. "Phase 2, he said. The fleet did not advance. The sector held its breath. The first human collar disengaged at 3:17 sector time. It did not explode. It did not spark. It simply unlocked, as if it had always been waiting for permission. Across the Keltar sector, identical restraints followed suit, thousands of them, synchronized to a signal that never touched Coalition firewalls. Human systems slid beneath older architectures, patient and invisible, rewriting authority without announcing themselves. In holding bays, mines, auction platforms, and transport holds, humans froze as pressure vanished from their throats. Some cried. Some stood still, afraid movement would wake a punishment that no longer existed. A few laughed, quiet, broken sounds that startled even them. Then the lights changed. Emergency illumination replaced control lighting, bathing steel corridors in amber. Doors that had never opened unlocked. Internal speakers crackled once before a calm human voice replaced years of alien command. "Remain where you are," the voice said. "You are being retrieved." On the bridge of the lead Terran vessel, Commander Elias Ward watched confirmation markers bloom across the tactical display. Green indicators replaced red, system by system, node by node. Each one represented lives returned to human control without a single shot fired. Lieutenant Soren swallowed. All slave facilities reporting loss of restraint authority. Captain Reyes leaned forward. Coalition fleet reaction escalating. "They're late," Ward replied. High Executive Vraxel's face filled the main screen without invitation. Gone was the controlled superiority. Gone was the faint amusement. His mandibles flared, and his voice shook with contained fury. "You have committed an act of war," Vraxel said. Ward regarded him evenly. "No. We corrected an error. You sabotaged sovereign systems. We reclaimed civilians. You will withdraw," Vraxel demanded. "Now." Ward shook his head once. "You still don't understand." The Coalition fleet surged forward. Weapons charged. Targeting arrays locked onto human hulls. Ward raised one hand. Human ships did not return fire. Instead, space itself bent. Coalition vessels shuddered as inertial dampeners failed simultaneously. Power cascaded backward through their systems, not violently, but comprehensively. Engines died. Weapons fell silent. Ships drifted, intact and helpless, caught by physics they could no longer command. Reyes exhaled slowly. "Fleet neutralized." "No casualties," Soren confirmed, disbelief creeping into his voice. Ward nodded. "As planned." On a medical station orbiting a minor trade moon, Med Adjunct Selak was forced to his knees as restraints snapped shut around his limbs. He expected execution. He did not resist. Instead, the door opened. Human Marines entered, not running, not shouting. Their armor was unadorned. Their weapons remained lowered. A woman stepped forward. Older. Command insignia worn smooth by time. "Med Adjunct Selak," she said. "You are under Terran protective custody." Selak's breath stuttered. "I violated protocol." "Yes," she agreed. "That's why you're alive." Elsewhere, Mara Cade felt gravity shift beneath her bed as the station's control passed silently into human hands. She pushed herself upright, pain flaring but manageable now. The door slid open. A human medic stood there. "Mara Cade," he said. "You've been upgraded from survivor to priority." She stared at him. "Did Earth hear me?" He smiled gently. "Earth heard you." On the Coalition flagship, Vraxel stood rigid as feeds flooded and, slave markets emptying, humans escorted out under Terran guard, Coalition systems overwritten without destruction. "This is impossible," Vraxel whispered. Ward's voice cut through the silence. "You were warned." Vraxel turned back to the screen. "You could have annihilated us." "Yes," Ward said. "We chose not to." "Why?" Ward's eyes did not leave Vraxel's. "Because one of yours chose mercy first." The image shifted. Footage played, Selak standing between armed guards and a dying human. Medical logs. Orders ignored. A life preserved against directive. "You saved one of us," Ward continued. "That is why you are still in command. That is why your fleet still exists." Vraxel's mandibles trembled. "And if we retaliate?" Ward's answer came without hesitation. "Then next time, we won't be collecting." The channel closed. Human ships moved through the sector with deliberate calm, docking where needed, extracting survivors with methodical care. No cheers echoed across comms. No victory declarations followed. They left behind documentation instead, evidence of executions, records of profit, names attached to decisions that had once been hidden by distance and indifference. Galactic observers watched in silence as humanity departed, taking its people and nothing else. In the aftermath, the Coalition issued statements. Investigations were announced. Reforms promised. None of it erased what had been seen. Across the stars, a new understanding settled in. Humans were not dangerous because they were aggressive. They were dangerous because they remembered. On the bridge of his ship, Ward watched the final transport clear the sector. Soren approached quietly. "All accounted for," he said. Every signal answered. Ward closed his eyes for a moment, then nodded. "Set course for home." As the fleet turned away, Mara Cade looked out through a viewport at the shrinking lights of the Keltar sector. Her reflection stared back, scarred, tired, alive. She touched the recorder still clipped to her collar. Repaired. Returned. She didn't activate it this time. She didn't need to. Earth had already come back for all of them. Earth did not celebrate their return. There were no parades, no speeches waiting at orbital docks, no banners stretched across the sky. Ships arrived on staggered schedules, sliding into civilian berths beside freighters and survey craft, indistinguishable to anyone not looking closely. Humanity had learned long ago that survival rarely needed applause. What mattered was arrival. What mattered was that every rescued human stepped onto solid ground without chains, without numbers replacing names. Medical teams moved with quiet efficiency, recording vitals, offering water, asking nothing beyond consent. The work was gentle, precise, and deliberately ordinary. By design, this normalcy healed. Mara Cade stood on the observation deck long after clearance lights dimmed, watching Earth rotate below her like a promise kept. Recovery had been swift, thorough, and respectful, yet something inside her lagged behind the healing charts. She felt lighter, but not finished. Commander Ward joined her without announcement, standing beside the viewport rather than facing her. He did not ask how she felt. He already knew the answer would change tomorrow. Instead he said, quietly, "You did what you could." Mara nodded once. That was enough acknowledgement to close the distance between them, and allow silence to settle fully. Across the galaxy, consequences arrived more slowly. Coalition assemblies convened under unfamiliar pressure, their chambers crowded with observers who had once remained distant. Records released by Terran analysts spread through diplomatic channels, unembellished and exacting. There were no accusations attached, only timestamps, signatures, and outcomes. Markets closed preemptively. Patrols altered routes. Species that had profited quietly began issuing apologies no one had requested. The absence of theatrical punishment unsettled them most. Humanity had not sought dominance, yet balance had shifted. Fear grew not from destruction, but from restraint demonstrated without hesitation. That truth echoed across borders, cultures, histories, systems wide. High Executive Vraxel remained in command, but authority felt different now. Directives required consensus. Orders met questions. Subordinates remembered the moment their fleet went silent while humans waited. Vraxel studied the recordings often, not from obsession, but from recalibration. Power, he realized, was not measured by how many lives could be spent, but by how many could be spared deliberately. The Coalition would adapt or fracture, either path carried cost. Humanity had not issued terms. They had set precedent. That absence of demands proved heavier than any ultimatum and reshaped every future negotiation within interstellar politics, quietly, permanently, irrevocably, onward. Selak stood trial before a medical ethics council, though the proceedings felt ceremonial. Evidence of protocol violation was undeniable, yet so was the outcome. Lives preserved. Atrocities interrupted. When asked why he acted, Selak answered simply, the patient mattered. No legal framework contradicted that statement. The council ruled narrowly, cautiously, and in Selak's favor. He was reassigned, not punished, placed within a new interspecies medical exchange overseen by humans. Mercy, it turned out, was contagious when survival proved it effective across cultures, species, doctrines, institutions, histories, borders, futures, alliances, practices, laws, norms, priorities, assumptions, traditions, councils, fleets, worlds, systems alike. Commander Ward filed his final report without commentary. Facts spoke clearly enough. He declined interviews, deflected commendations, and transferred command to a relief coordinator better suited for rebuilding lives. Strategy interested him less than closure. In private moments, he reviewed casualty lists that remained mercifully empty, then the single name that had started everything. One human voice, carried across light years, had tested humanity's values. The answer had not required debate. Ward understood then that leadership sometimes meant listening once, and responding forever after when conscience called, history watched, and silence carried weight beyond calculation, expectation, fear, doubt, hesitation, denial, pride. The rescued humans dispersed gradually, returning to families, colonies, ships, or new paths entirely. Some slept for days. Others could not sleep at all. Counseling centers filled, then emptied, replaced by routine and purpose. Scars remained, visible and otherwise, yet they no longer defined the future. Humanity did not build monuments to the operation. Names were archived, lessons catalogued, systems improved. Memory was preserved functionally, not theatrically. The goal had never been to be feared. It had been to ensure no human voice vanished unanswered again anywhere, anytime, regardless of distance, power, cost, convenience, politics, profit, hierarchy, indifference, circumstance, scale. Mara eventually returned to space, though not to cargo runs. She trained as a liaison, bridging humans and species willing to learn. Her story was requested often, she told it rarely. When she did, she spoke less about pain and more about the moment she chose to whisper home. Choice, she learned, was the first freedom reclaimed. On quiet nights, she replayed the stars and felt no fear. Humanity had crossed something irreversible. They had proven that compassion, when enforced with resolve, could redraw the map of civilization itself, beyond borders, eras, species, violence, dominance, inevitability, myth, assumption, tradition, inertia. Years later, the incident entered textbooks as a footnote, easily overlooked by readers chasing larger wars. Yet captains remembered it. Medics remembered it. Traders altered contracts quietly. Somewhere in coalition space, a commander paused before issuing a lethal order, recalling silent human ships and restraint more frightening than aggression. History rarely marked turning points with explosions. Sometimes it shifted because someone refused to let one life become convenient loss. That subtle defiance accumulated, reshaping behavior long after fleets departed and headlines faded, leaving consequences embedded within choices, cultures, instincts, ethics, institutions, laws, memories, decisions, futures, systems, societies, alliances, worlds, everywhere. On Earth, dawn followed night as it always had. Children learned new names. Engineers built better tools. No alarms sounded. No enemy loomed. Humanity continued forward, changed but unburdened by spectacle. They had answered a call once and proven they would answer again. The galaxy adjusted accordingly. Somewhere beyond mapped space, unknown civilizations would hear the story eventually, stripped of embellishment and fear. They would learn the simplest rule humanity lived by now: save one of us, and none of us forget ever, regardless of scale, era, distance, cost, threat, consequence, shadow, silence, time, history, future, stars, themselves, watching, quietly.